Lesson 7.1, Managing Conflict in the Household. Welcome to Lesson 7.1, where we dive headfirst into the delightful and often messy world of managing conflict in the household. Parenting isn't just about cuddles and bedtime stories. It's also about refereeing disputes, navigating disagreements, and keeping the peace when tempers flare. So, let's talk about how to handle the inevitable conflicts that pop up when family members spend a lot of time under one roof. Hush. What is conflict anyway? First off, let's be real. Conflict in a household is as unavoidable as laundry. Whether it's a disagreement over who gets the last cookie or a full-blown sibling showdown, conflict is part of the package. The goal isn't to avoid conflict, because good luck with that, but to learn how to manage it effectively so it doesn't derail your entire day. Why conflict happens? Let's face it, when you throw together a group of people with different personalities, needs, and moods, sparks are going to fly. Add a few stressors like school, work, or household chores, and voila, instant conflict. But instead of seeing it as a disaster, we can use these moments as opportunities for teaching and growth. The first rule: don't get hooked. When conflict arises, the first and most important thing you can do as a parent is to not get hooked. That means don't jump into the middle of the argument with your own anger or frustration. If you react with a raised voice, sarcastic remark, or immediate punishment, you're only throwing fuel on the fire. Instead, take a deep breath or 5 and respond thoughtfully. Real life example. Let's say your two kids are arguing again over the TV remote. Kid A wants to watch cartoons and Kid B insists it's their turn to choose the show. You've heard this argument a million times and could scream. Instead, you decide to stay calm. You walk in and say, "Looks like we have a disagreement here. How are we going to solve this together?" This shifts the focus from blaming each other to working on a solution. Key tips for managing conflict. Stay neutral. Think of yourself as Switzerland, calm, cool, and unbiased. Getting emotional or choosing sides will only escalate the situation. Ask questions. Instead of jumping in with a solution, ask questions to encourage your kids to think for themselves. What could you do differently next time? Or how do you think the other person feels? Teach conflict resolution. Use these moments to teach problem-solving skills. Suggest brainstorming solutions together or taking turns. Lesson learned. In the example above, you didn't fix the problem for them because honestly, do we need to micromanage TV time? You stayed neutral, asked questions, and gave your kids the tools to handle their disagreement themselves. This teaches them responsibility, cooperation, and communication. All important life skills. Wrapping it up. Managing conflict in the household doesn't mean avoiding it or silencing disagreements. It's about helping your family navigate through the inevitable bumps in the road with patience, empathy, and a sense of humor. When you approach conflicts as opportunities to teach and grow, everyone wins. Even if nobody gets to watch their favorite show right away. Lesson 7.2, How to Handle Misbehavior Without Weakening the Child. Welcome to Lesson 7.2, where we tackle the eternal question. How do you deal with misbehavior without turning your child into a puddle of low self-esteem, or worse, encouraging more mischief? First off, let's acknowledge that all kids misbehave. Yep, it's a universal truth, like gravity or your coffee going cold the moment you sit down to drink it. But the trick isn't in stopping misbehavior altogether, because, spoiler, you can't. It's about how you respond to it that makes all the difference. So let's dive in and figure out how to handle those not-so-great moments in a way that strengthens your child rather than weakening them. Step 1, stay cool under pressure. Easier said than done, I know. When your kid does something that makes you want to pull your hair out, like coloring on the walls, refusing to do homework, or fighting with a sibling, your immediate reaction might be to yell, "What were you thinking?" But take a deep breath. Reacting from a place of anger only weakens the situation. It teaches your child that emotional outbursts are the go-to solution for handling problems, which is the exact opposite of what we want. Instead, take a second, or 10, to compose yourself. Responding calmly signals to your child that while their behavior was out of line, it's something that can be worked through, not a catastrophe. Step 2. Address the behavior, not the child. There's a big difference between saying, "You're being so bad," and "Drawing on the walls isn't okay." One is an attack on their character, the other is about their behavior. Kids need to know that even when they mess up, they're still good at the core. They just made a not so great choice. By separating the behavior from the person, you're preserving their self-worth while still making it clear that the action wasn't acceptable. Step 3. Let natural consequences work their magic. Sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is to let natural consequences take over. If they forget their homework, don't rush in to save the day. Let them face the teacher's response. If they refuse to clean up their toys, maybe those toys go on vacation for a while. The goal here isn't to punish, but to let kids learn that actions have consequences without you swooping in to fix everything. Step 4. Offer choices. Within limits, of course. Giving kids some control can go a long way toward reducing misbehavior. Rather than barking orders, offer choices. Would you like to do your homework now or after dinner? Gives them a sense of agency while still ensuring the work gets done. It's a simple shift that can reduce power struggles and increase cooperation. Real-life example. The battle of bedtime. Let's say your 5-year-old is having a meltdown every night when it's time for bed. You're exhausted, and honestly, you're tempted to let them stay up just so you can have some peace. But you know this isn't the long-term answer. So, you stay calm. Acknowledge their feelings. I know you don't want to go to bed right now. It's hard to stop playing when you're having fun. And then offer them choices. Would you like to read one more story before bed or cuddle for 5 minutes? It doesn't take away the bedtime battle entirely, but it gives them a sense of control while reinforcing the boundary that bedtime is non-negotiable. Lesson learned. In this scenario, you stayed cool, didn't label your child as bad, and provided choices that kept bedtime intact while allowing your kid to feel some power. You didn't swoop in to solve everything by letting them stay up late, and you didn't engage in a power struggle either. It's all about finding that balance between discipline and empathy. So, in summary, when misbehavior strikes, respond calmly, focus on the behavior rather than the child, allow natural consequences, and offer choices to help your child grow. It's all about helping them understand that they're responsible for their actions while keeping their self-esteem intact. Easy? Not always. Worth it? Absolutely. Hi there, we hope you're enjoying this course. If you are, just a quick note to let you know there's plenty more to explore. We're constantly adding new content, so be sure to check out freecoursesforall.com. That's free courses, the number 4, all.com. Now back to the course. Lesson 7.3, Teaching Kids to Own Their Choices and Learn from Consequences. Welcome to Lesson 7.3. Let's talk about a game-changing concept in parenting. Teaching kids to own their choices and, brace yourself, actually learn from their consequences. Yes, it's possible, but it requires a little finesse, patience, and of course, the art of letting go, of control, that is. Why let them own their choices? First off, when kids are allowed to make their own choices, they start to develop a sense of autonomy. They feel more in control of their world, which helps them grow into responsible adults. We know the temptation to swoop in and save them is real. We've all been there. But here's the truth. Constantly rescuing them from their poor decisions prevents them from learning valuable lessons. When kids own their choices, they also own the outcomes, whether good or bad. This creates a healthy cause and effect relationship that helps them navigate life's challenges. Plus, it's much easier to get a kid to reflect on why they didn't study for that math test when they're facing the consequences of a low grade than it is to nag them into studying. Real life example. Let's say your 10-year-old Jake insists on wearing his favorite but lightweight hoodie on a cold, rainy day. You warn him it's not a great idea, but he's adamant. Instead of forcing a heavy jacket on him, you let him make the call. Fast forward to recess, and Jake's shivering because he's drenched. He comes home cold and complaining. But guess what? He's learned firsthand that a warm jacket isn't just a suggestion, it's a necessity. Next time it's raining, you'll find Jake grabbing that waterproof coat all on his own. It's a small victory, but it teaches a larger lesson. Choices have consequences, and those consequences can be a great teacher. Lessons learned. 1. Natural consequences work wonders. When Jake realized he was cold and wet because he ignored your advice, he learned to take your suggestions more seriously. Sometimes, natural consequences are the best teacher. 2. Ownership encourages responsibility. Because Jake made the decision himself, he was able to connect the dots between his choice and the outcome. This kind of ownership is crucial in helping kids make better choices in the future. 3. It's okay to let them fail. As parents, we often think we need to protect our kids from every mistake, but letting them experience small failures builds resilience. It's how they learn to make better decisions moving forward. Wrap up. Teaching kids to own their choices isn't about letting them make every decision or exposing them to risky situations. It's about finding the balance, allowing them to make age-appropriate choices and experience the natural consequences that follow. When they do, they'll start to connect the dots between their actions and outcomes, fostering both independence and responsibility. Now step back a bit and let them choose, and maybe fail a little. They'll thank you for it later. Lesson 7.4, Examples of Positive Parent-Child Interactions. Welcome to Lesson 7.4, where we'll dive into real-life examples of positive parent-child interactions. Parenting doesn't come with a manual, but some of the best lessons are learned through everyday experiences. This lesson will highlight how applying key parenting principles like empathy, active listening, and respect can strengthen your relationship with your child and guide them toward responsible and emotionally intelligent behavior. Scenario 1. A miscommunication unfolds. Let's start with a scenario you've probably encountered before. Mary, your child, is fuming after an argument with her brother. She barges into the room exclaiming, "Johnny's so mean." Instead of jumping in with advice or lecturing about sibling harmony, the parent chooses to listen. "Sounds like you're pretty upset with him," the parent calmly responds. Mary, encouraged by the empathy, goes on, "I am. He came into my room and called my friend names." Here, the parent uses active listening to reflect back Mary's feelings without judgment. "Wow, that doesn't seem very nice. No wonder you're upset." This validation helps Mary feel heard, allowing her to work through her emotions rather than bottling them up or reacting impulsively. Lesson learned. Sometimes, all a child needs is to feel heard. By listening, instead of immediately trying to fix the problem, parents foster emotional intelligence and self-awareness in their children. The goal is not to solve everything immediately, but to create a space where kids can express themselves freely. Scenario 2. Boredom strikes. Now let's take a look at the classic case of a bored child. "I'm bored. There's nothing to do around here," your child complains. You could easily jump in with suggestions, but instead, you validate their feelings. "Yeah, it's tough when there's nothing exciting to do, isn't it?" By empathizing, you show that you understand their perspective without rushing to offer a solution. Over time, this teaches your child to solve their own problems and encourages self-reliance. Lesson learned. Allowing kids to sit with boredom rather than constantly entertaining them helps build creativity and problem-solving skills. Not every situation requires a solution from you. Sometimes your child just needs to learn to manage their emotions and thoughts independently. Scenario 3. The Tower of Tinker Toys. In another situation, imagine 8-year-old Billy has spent the last 45 minutes building an impressive Tinker Toy tower. He's eager to show it off when his younger sibling, Henry, knocks it down by accident. A meltdown ensues, complete with tears and yelling. Instead of overreacting, Billy's mom acknowledges his frustration. "It's really disappointing when you work so hard and then it's all destroyed just like that." As she mirrors his emotions, Billy gradually calms down, feeling validated. Lesson learned. When emotions run high, mirroring your child's feelings can be incredibly effective. It helps them process their emotions and teaches them that it's okay to feel disappointed or frustrated. It's part of learning how to manage difficult moments. The power of positive interaction. Each of these examples highlights a key principle: the power of listening, empathizing, and refraining from immediately fixing the problem. By giving kids space to express themselves and encouraging self-reflection, you guide them toward better emotional regulation and decision-making skills. In short, positive parent-child interactions are about creating an environment where your child feels respected, understood, and supported. Whether they're angry, bored, or facing disappointment, the way you respond shapes their ability to handle future challenges with resilience and maturity.